Hello everyone, and welcome to We Watch Bad Films, the film where we watch bad films so you don't have to. I'm Gary, and with me is Jay.
Hello, I think you said film instead of podcast, but I like it.
Oh, well, we watch bad podcasts where we review films, or we watch bad films where we review podcasts?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, one of those, okay. This week, Jay, I am flipping the tables. I came at you and said, hey, here's a film I watched, and just because I'm getting power hungry, I'm also now going to pick the film we're going to watch.
Well, colour me an accessory to your regime.
Okay. I was browsing Reddit the other day in the subreddit Old School Cool, and somebody posted a picture, said, hey, here's me with my cousin, Debbie Gibson, in the 80s.
That's a great... Well, if you're on Reddit and your cousin is Debbie Gibson, that's a great little thing to whip out, isn't it?
Indeed, but further on through the comments, I was, mildly interested, but I had a read through, and lo and behold, Debbie Gibson has a second career. Any thoughts what that career might be, Jay?
Wrestling, skydiving, fencing.
No, it's actually B-movies. She's now made quite a few B-movies in the 2000s.
Really?
Yes. And the one I've picked today has double 80s-ness. Not only Debbie Gibson, but she stars opposite Tiffany.
Of the lamp enterprise.
Indeed. And the glass.
Oh, Tiffany and Debbie Gibson. Tiffany of I Think We're Alone Now.
Yes, we've just had a copyright claim. Well done, thanks.
Yeah. I think it was just about under the algorithm's bots' powers.
It was astonishingly accurate. So the film we're going to watch is, I've got to get this right because it's a bit odd, Megapython versus Gatoroid.
Megapython versus Gatoroid. Sounds like some sort of horrible thing that you get to... Sounds like a hemorrhoid, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
Lovely. Well, I tell you what, I bet you I can find a wonderful trailer for it. You guys should listen to this now. We'll go and watch the film, and hey, why don't we talk about it afterwards?
Deep in the Everglades.
As long as they're all brown-nosing each other, they ain't out here trying to arrest us for hunting.
A danger is lurking.
Zeke, there's something in the water!
Created by man.
Things are worse than we thought.
Nature is threatened. The only way to stop it is to find something bigger.
You want a bigger gator?
Something better.
I'll get you.
You're responsible for that man's death today.
That's impossible. There's no snake in the world that
big. Anyone else with a weapon should get it out! Now!
Pop sensations.
Only in your dream.
Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. Megapython versus Gatoroid.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the trailer for Megapython versus Gatoroid from 2011. The plot nominally is a B-movie type plot. I'm never going to refer to the characters by name, only by Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, by the way. Debbie Gibson leads a group of animal activists who are freeing snakes from somewhere, and they let them into the Everglades. Meanwhile, Tiffany is a park ranger at the Everglades and is trying to save the alligators. However, something's happened, which means that the snakes are growing in size. To combat the snakes, they inject them with a hormone. They inject chickens with hormones and then feed them to the alligators, who then eat the snakes, who then eat the alligators. Basically, it's an excuse to generate giant snakes and alligators. You can see where this sort of disaster movie thing's trying to go. It goes a bit awry. They get onto land. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Step in Dr. Ortiz. I enjoy talking about him later. Who is a scientist who knows how to stop them. I'll be honest, I didn't quite follow how he stopped them, but it was something to do with spraying some stuff somewhere. And there's a lot of shooting snakes and alligators. That seems to also work. Yeah, I'm not sure it deserves any more plot than that. Jay, kick us off.
Oh yeah, it also has a scene where Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, who had like one hit, wonder sort of careers in the 80s, wrestle each other covered in cake for about half an hour, it seems. So there's that to add to it as well. If you don't want to watch it for the pythons and the gatoroids, you can watch it for that. This film is completely stupid.
Yeah, you are right. It is completely stupid. Very, very dumb. It's dumb enough that it's dumb right off the gate. Yeah.
It is, absolutely. It doesn't.
How does the film open, Jay?
No, they're just they're driving in a car, and I say driving, they're sitting in what I think is probably a vehicle, but it's framed so badly that I can't even see, with just pitch black behind them, and it's obviously a fake vehicle, and somebody's outside of the frame just wobbling the car. Gary and I laughed at that immediately as soon as we saw that. And then a few minutes later, Debbie Gibson has got a sack of snakes, which she's about to unleash into the local river. And when she opens the snacks...
Snacks? Snacks for the alligators.
When she opens the sack, the worst CGI mess starts pouring out. I think they're meant to be snakes.
Well, you say that it's the worst CGI, but we hadn't even started the film. And do you remember what she says as she unloads the snakes into the river?
Get me out of this film?
No, sadly not. She says, I wish we could do this every night. Unload snakes into a river. Very strange.
They looked a bit like those gummy things that you get in shops, the little gummy snakes and worms and stuff. But like you said, the CGI at the beginning is the tip of the CGI iceberg.
The CGI in this film is so poor. It's like it's from 1992, not 2011. It's all... it's just so bad.
It's horrible. It's like it's pixelated, sludgy. It looks weird. It doesn't fit in the frame properly. And after a while, Gary said, like, I'm just letting all this bad CGI wash over me. There's so much of it. It's so bad.
Obviously, the snakes are bad CGI. Obviously. The alligators are bad CGI. But equally, they've got these helicopter shots that are really bad CGI.
Yes.
They also superimpose our characters onto other scenes, like Neil Breen style sometimes.
Yeah, really bad. Like cut and paste. Like just quickly cut around that character, plonk him on that background.
Yeah, from a technical level, really, really poor. I know what your favourite CGI shot was of the film, and it's something to do with a walkie-talkie.
Now, I can't really remember what was going on. There's a lot of rubbish going on in this film. But I think one of the characters is getting attacked by a giant anaconda-type snake.
Yes.
By the way, it's not really clear at any point why all of a sudden, after Debbie Gibson unleashes a few normal-sized snakes into the river, why about 3 hours later there's about 1,000 huge anacondas taking over the Everglades.
I'm sure it must have been explained.
Yeah, it must have been. Anyway, one of the characters is being attacked by a python anaconda type thing, and Tiffany comes up to it, and this is all in the context of terrible CGI wrapping around the characters. And Tiffany's like, like Psycho, stabbing into what I imagine would have been thin air on the set. And I kept looking at Gary, like, is she... What's she doing here? What's happening? Is she stabbing the snake? It looks terrible. But anyway, the best bit is the next shot, where we have a close-up on what looks like a a sort of beaten steak of beef with a big slit in it. This is sounding really bad.
It's very Yonic, yes.
With framed by terrible CGI, I imagine snakeskin.
Yes.
And slowly what happens is a Motorola walkie-talkie is shoved through this slit by a member of crew shoving this walkie-talkie. What we think is going on, what's meant to be happening, is that she's slit the snake in half and it had swallowed a previous character who had a walkie-talkie, and then she grabs hold of this walkie-talkie because it's in the snake. It does not look like that.
It's a fabulous, fabulous bit of CGI. Yeah, it's wonderful. And they love repeating shots in this film as well. It's like they've got it's an hour and 31 of screen time.
And there's only an hour of footage.
There's only an hour of footage. So yeah, there's that shot of the Motorola radio. See how I know, great product placement. I wish we were sponsored by Motorola. Motorola. Walkie-talkie lying in the grass. That's a collective minute of screen time.
Motorola works even after it's been in a snake or CGI snakes or bits of meat.
Hashtag not spawn.
There's shots of people facing one direction, and then a couple of scenes later it would be the same shot but flipped, reversed.
What about when they call in back to Ranger HQ, but clearly they didn't get any footage of it?
Oh God, this is the bit where, like, I wish we had a YouTube channel, because
We do have a YouTube channel.
Well, yeah, I know we have a YouTube channel, but like, I'd like to show you a clip of this. It's so bad that we had to rewind the film to actually work out what had just taken place. So they go back to the ranger station, like you said, and Tiffany's talking to someone, but it's done.
Yes.
It's overdubbed.
Well, I'm guessing they had some footage of her talking to someone at the front desk.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think it's Ortiz. He's back in the helicopter and he's on the phone. He's trying to speak to Tiffany on the phone.
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, you've got to get something or do something or someone."
And then it cuts to Tiffany randomly talking to some woman.
Yes.
And Tiffany's mouth isn't moving, but she's smiling.
Yes.
And then it cuts to, like, the old woman who works in the sheriff's office, or whatever they are. And then it goes back to Tiffany. She's still not saying anything. She's grinning. But yet there's this dialogue overdubbed on top. It's so bad.
But then it goes back to Ortiz and then back to Tiffany again, and she's screaming into the phone.
Yeah, in a completely different room, completely different outfit.
They clearly missed the pickup for that, and they didn't have the footage ready to do it.
I mean, this director, I don't really... This is one of these films where I don't really understand what's going on. Okay, so the director of this film is called, and we're going to name and shame her, Mary Lambert. Now, Mary Lambert has had a very successful career as a music video director.
She's done a bunch of Madonna work, right?
Let me just reel off some of the videos she's done. Nasty and Control by Janet Jackson. I think
Big hits.
And she did the music videos to Borderline, Like a Virgin, Material Girl, La Isla Bonita, and Like a Prayer for Madonna.
Huge 80s songs.
No slouch. So that's Mary Lambert.
So when she's got 4 minutes to work with, she is the one to go to. When you've got an hour and 31, you want to talk about alligators and snakes? No.
So she works best with Madonna, but when it comes to with Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, she loses the plot. And when there's a script... so she's obviously a competent director. I don't understand why this film is so shoddy. It has a sort of air around it, as if it is almost self-knowingly bad, but it's not quite as self-knowingly bad as some of the other films we've watched, like Ouija Shark, which I think is a little bit more self-knowing. This film, I mean, why would you put some of these shots in? The CGI is so bad that it's embarrassing. And like the pickup shots, the reverse shots, the badly overdubbed shots, it is amateurish.
Amateurish is the word. I mean, it's odd, really, that Megapython versus Gatoroid from 2011. Sharknado is from 2013. I would have sworn it was like riding the wave of those southern mega monster movies that appeared in that period, but no.
There was no wave to ride at this point.
Predates it.
It was a ripple in the Everglades.
Let's talk about some of the casting choices in this film. I'm going to pick on an odd one, which is not for everyone, but really stuck out to me. So Jay just referenced an old woman. I cannot look at her and not say Mrs. Lanningham, who viewers of The West Wing will know. The wonderful Catherine Joost passed away in 2012, sadly, so this was possibly her last credit. She's amazing, and you can tell she's having fun in this, actually. I don't know what she's doing in it, to be honest.
No. She has a great death scene. Oops, spoilers.
Speaking of bad CGI and death scenes, yes. So they're escaping a giant alligator in a town.
Which is meant to be Miami, right? But in fact, the whole film is meant to be set in the Everglades, and then they go to Miami. None of it looks like the Everglades or Miami. It's all filmed in Las Vegas.
California, I think.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
I think they've got some stock footage of the Everglades and a couple of hovercraft shots.
And a couple of sort of men wearing Tiffany and Debbie Gibson wigs.
Oh, don't go there. Let's come back there in a minute. And so they're being pursued by an alligator. Mrs. Lanningham peeps out the top of the sunroof of the car with a revolver shooting a snake that must be like 100 feet long.
And she's barely holding the revolver properly. She's like just randomly like shooting there.
Damn it! Get away! Get out! His mouth!
Yeah. And then, shock horror, the snake munches her and pulls her out of the car, and these wonderful pair of legs lift out of the car, moving car.
These terrible little brown flapping legs, which they may be in CGI as well. I mean, why not?
Indeed. So that's one bit of casting. What about someone playing themselves?
Yeah, so part of the plot, now bear with me here, I mean, Gary might have to back me up on this, and in fact some of the plot is a bit confusing, and I don't really know exactly what was going on, but part of the plot is Tiffany's character is putting on a fundraiser event.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, come on, keep up.
She's doing a fundraiser event where there's going to be a monkey. They keep saying there's going to be a monkey.
They do, yes.
They keep saying there's going to be a monkey.
I have a monkey landing in 1 hour,
yeah.
says one fact.
Which we laughed at because that just sounds stupid. I mean, are they going to have an actual monkey? But what happens is that Mickey Dolenz appears, who is a member of the Monkees from the 1960s. As himself. And sort of chews up the scenery for a couple of scenes.
I don't know if he has something to do with Tiffany or Debbie Gibson from their singing careers, or if he owed them a favour. He gets eaten, right? I forgot. Does he get eaten?
I'm pretty sure he gets eaten, yeah.
Dead monkey.
I think the only person who doesn't get eaten is what everyone calls the Indian.
Oh yeah, that threw me for ages till you corrected me. So there's a clearly Latino Hispanic doctor, Dr. Ortiz. I mean, the clue's in the name. And someone refers to him as Indian, and I was like, what? From Delhi? Till you reminded me, they probably mean Native American.
It was 2011. They didn't care about it.
It was a different time.
Yeah, it was
rubbish either way.
Yeah, so Mickey Dolenz turns up, but he gets eaten. I'd like to mention another character or two. I've written down here Tiffany's tits.
The two characters then.
Yes.
Yeah, they were front and centre. It was the Tiff show.
It was. Titany. Titanic.
There goes our explicit tag.
Tiffany, for some reason, in every single shot, has a brassiere and either a blouse or a shirt open. And as the film progresses, her appendages get more and more full front and centre in the frame. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, I guess at that point in the film, they're like, well, we've thrown everything else at the camera.
This is a female director, by the way, and the leads are women, basically.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on here with these decisions. And also Debbie Gibson doesn't get the tit show. So
No.
they must have had a chat. Someone must have had a chat. The directors must have had a chat with Tiffany. Tiffany, what's going to happen here is that we're going to have your breasts out for most of the film. So do be prepared for that. Tiffany signed off on it. Sure. Go for it, guys.
Well, let's be honest, the reason we're watching this film, the reason people are watching this film is for Tiffany and Debbie Gibson. They have the mega powers colliding and exploding a la WrestleMania 5.
When you told me about this film, we looked at the cast list and it was like, oh, we've got to watch this.
Yeah.
Debbie Gibson, Tiffany, Mickey Dolenz. Why not?
Exactly. And actually, whilst neither of them are great actors, they're clearly having fun and going with it and enjoying it.
It's quite something to say that when you're watching a film where Tiffany and Debbie Gibson are in it and they are the best actors in it.
No, Missy Lanningham wins that one. So.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. The CGI sludge gets that.
Yeah. Well, as you hinted earlier, they did have a massive fight, which is probably what a lot of people were tuning in for.
Is it?
It starts with a food fight, and then huge slaps, rolling around the floor. They end up in a lake. Like you say, it's a good half an hour of knock-down, drag-out affair.
Yeah, they. So during this fundraiser, there's lots of guests and there's lots of food, and I kept looking behind the characters and saying, look at all these like pies lined up, these cakes lined up, and then lo and behold, it's because
That is footage of you planting steroids in those chickens and feeding them to those
children's
gators.
program
That
from the
proves
1980s.
nothing. Oh, bitch,
Just needed
please.
some guns, right?
Yeah, loads of guns, and they're covering each other's various appendages in cake and rolling around the floor. And then Gary, you called it. You said, I bet they're going to fall into some water because they're going to have to clean themselves up after this. You can't have Debbie Gibson and Tiffany wandering around the rest of this film covered in cake.
And lo and behold, they fall into a lake.
They fall into a lake, and listeners, they are there for about 20 minutes, and the rest of the film is carrying on. These giant pythons and these giant alligators all CGI sludge into shot, and they're attacking all the guests at this fundraiser. And every now and again, it'll cut back to Debbie Gibson and Tiffany wrestling in a pond. Is that what's going on? And that goes on for about 20 minutes.
I'll tell you what was the biggest surprise for me, and hey, spoilers, but I don't really know why you're listening to this if you're not interested in spoilers for this film. But they both died.
Do you know what? I was actually shocked at that.
I was as well. I thought we showed it up some, or one of them at least. But Tiffany doesn't quite make it onto the ladder coming out of the CG helicopter and gets munched.
Well, yeah, they'd actually really cleverly foreshadowed that earlier on. Debbie Gibson is there's like a ladder. I think there's a helicopter, and they send a ladder down. She's being attacked by someone, and she's with a friend. She leaps for the ladder, and then her friend is sort of left stranded, and her friend gets eaten. Don't know who it is, don't care. And then right at the end of the film, the same thing happens. A helicopter is trying to rescue these two girls. They send down this ladder. Debbie Gibson leaps for it again and leaves Tiffany stranded on the floor. Who'd have thought it? Back in the late 80s, that Debbie Gibson would leave Tiffany high and dry, so to speak, to be eaten by giant alligators. And I thought, Debbie Gibson, you cow. She's... By the way, Debbie Gibson, the whole reason this film's happened is because Debbie Gibson just released these snakes into the local undergrowth.
It's all her fault.
It's all her fault. It's all her fault. But so she gets onto this ladder and Tiffany gets eaten. But then later, she falls off of the helicopter into another pond, and she's like, "I'm alive! I survived! I'm alive!" And I thought, oh no, she's going to die now. Now that she said that, and lo and behold, she gets eaten as well.
She gets munched in the middle.
Yeah. And so the only remaining character is Ortiz, Dr. Ortiz.
Yeah, who then delivers a final message to the film over a CGI lake, standing on a CGI cliff.
With about 10 people behind him, all CGI'd in.
Yeah, but he's talking to the lake. They're all behind him because it made a better shot. I don't know how they can hear him if he's shouting into a lake.
He's talking to the red ribbon he's about to cut, as if like the red ribbon is sentient.
Yeah, this film finished like 20 minutes ago, and I can't remember what he was opening. Oh, I just remembered, yes.
He's opening a lake. This is what people do, isn't it?
The closing frame is this plaque dedicated to Tiffany and Debbie Gibson.
That's right.
And I don't know if any of you guys mess around with Photoshop, but if you go to the filters menu, you'll find, I think, sketch and stylize and bevel and emboss, all these. If you do that to a regular photograph, that's what you get out on the last frame of the picture, just using a bog standard Photoshop filter effect on someone's picture.
Yeah, and they look awful.
Yeah. It's supposed to look like it's on a bronze plaque or something, but...
Again, it's one of these films where your main premise, your tenet for this film is you're going to have monsters, and yet the worst thing in the film is what the monsters look like, and so whether the film would have been good or not, it was always going to fail because the CGI is so terrible.
The CGI is a million miles behind where it needs to be. There's other good effects shot. Do you remember they come across some Jeep wreckage? And when I say wreckage, it means, damn it, we've got to do the Jeep scene. Let's go down the scrapyard. I've got a bumper, I've got a grill, I've got a couple of headlights and a windscreen.
Just chuck it on the floor.
Chuck it on the floor. Oh, that's not enough. It's got to look like a proper grisly death scene. Go to the corner shop, get a couple of tins of tomatoes, chuck it over.
Marinara. Put a bit of strawberry jam on it.
Yeah, marinara Jeep.
I've got written down here snakeskin hat.
Yeah, I've got snakeskin hat written as well because Debbie Gibson, I was going to call her Debbie Harry then, different person. Debbie Gibson, who is an animal rescuer, is wearing a snakeskin hat.
Oh, it just absolutely stupid. It makes no sense, this film. There's an amazing montage. Remember the insane montage when the snakes and the alligators sort of munch on these mutant chickens and they become huge?
I do remember. I remember Mrs. Lanningham throwing a chicken about 1 foot to one of the giant alligators that's clearly supposed to be about 50 feet away.
And I think that's when we hear one of the two terrible songs from this film, isn't it?
Yes, Serpentine by
Debbie Gibson
and Snake Dance.
Snakey Wakey by Tiffany.
Something like that, anyway. You can find that on tiffanytunes.com. Not even a joke. Not even a joke.
Tiffany Tunes. Don't you have Tiffany Tunes? Oh, I love it.
It's my favourite app.
I listen to Tiffany on that.
It's full multiplexed stereo.
I wonder if you'll be able to
lossless format.
Play any of those songs on this podcast, whether it will be hit by Tiffany and Debbie Gibson's lawyers.
If I don't, I'm hanging up my podcast snakeskin hat. I don't think we can let it pass without the knowing in-jokes that appear throughout the film, such as one crowd scene where Tiffany and Debbie Gibson are, just Debbie Gibson, one word, Debbie Gibson, are having a fight, a verbal fight. And standing to one side of Tiffany is someone wearing a Debbie Gibson t-shirt, and standing to her other side
Yeah, you pointed it out, you're like, no, there's a Tiffany one as well!
in the same shot. It's bonkers. And then what happens when our two dueling heroines are stranded in the lake? What do they say to each other?
I think we're alone now.
There doesn't seem to be anyone around. Can't you feel my heartbeat?
These being the lyrics to Tiffany's only hit.
Yes, quite.
Can I also just say that there's one plot point that I really want to get across and discuss, is that Debbie Gibson wants to spy on what Tiffany's doing. Tiffany, by the way, is like a park ranger, sheriff, cop, sort of an amorphous role. And Gary, how does Debbie Gibson spy on Tiffany in the Everglades?
Well, in the Everglades, an area of lots of electricity and Wi-Fi, they rig up.
Really dry area. Really dry.
Really great for electronics. They rig up some cameras. They just drill. Literally, he takes a power drill and holds a camera up. I think they actually only show you doing one, but the implication is you put up like 100 cameras, right?
Let's think about how big is the Everglades, Gary?
I've been there, and it's quite big.
It's probably about like a third of the size of the whole of Great Britain.
It probably is. I don't know, but everything in America is about the third of the size of the entire UK. So.
And the implication is that Debbie Gibson, with two of her friends, has gone around the whole of the Everglades, every single area of the Everglades, mostly underwater, and drilled in cameras, wireless cameras. And
so she can go on her laptop. Oh, there's a camera. Camera B. So we can spy on people injecting drugs into raw chickens.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to you as we were watching, it's not often that we will watch a film, and I think even I could have written a better film than that.
Lots of the scenes feel like they turned up on the day and then decided what to do.
Yeah.
Hence lots of missing footage that they then badly try and dub in and repeat and overlap. Oh, goodness me. Is there any much else you want to say?
Gator hole?
So there's a lot of odd phrases in this film that they invent, such as...
Gator hole!
Yes, gator hole, where a gator lives, obviously, and lays its millions of floaty eggs.
CGI floaty eggs, they don't quite sit in the environment very well.
Well, they could do, except they choose to do a slow dynamic zoom on the shot.
And you can see that they're slightly pixelated and floating up and down slightly.
And they're tracking the eggs to the shot badly. They could have just left it as a static shot. Would have worked much better.
Bearing in mind, listeners, I don't know if you know much about the Everglades. Let's just say it's a giant swamp. Alligators don't live in caves, and there are no caves in the Everglades. Another thing that they say is that one of the characters says alligators can't look forwards. That's one of the ways that they can escape. So it's a bit like Jurassic Park, where their vision is based on movement.
Yes. Yeah.
I looked it up as we were watching the film. It's rubbish. Much like everything else in this film.
Almost like they didn't plan it.
Is there anything else you want to say about this complete steaming pile, Gary?
The line 72 dead gators this month.
I've got a line written down. It's in my pants!
Oh, yeah, lots of Megapython jokes at the beginning. Just not worth your time. Just horrendous. Luckily, he gets eaten a few minutes later.
Yeah. Along with the CGI effects supervisor on this film.
Indeed. He died before the filming started.
This is why he ended up with a muddy sludge.
But despite all this, Jay, would you recommend Megapython versus Gatoroid? What's a Gatoroid, by the way?
Well, like I said, it sounds like something you have to go to the doctor to have removed.
Yes. So would you recommend Megapython versus Gatoroid?
Well, I mean, recommend is a strong word, but was it entertaining? It kind of was entertaining, actually. We've watched quite a lot of crud in recent... Well, we've watched a lot of crud in all of the episodes, but...
See the previous million episodes.
But some of this crud that we watch is actually quite entertaining. And we've had a bit of a drought in that department. And actually, I would say this was quite entertaining, the film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Recommend is a strong word, but yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry to make you say the word recommend. Not recommend, but, if you want to watch something stupid and B-movie-ish with terrible CGI and terrible acting, this ticks all those boxes. Just know what you're going into when you're heading into it.
Yeah, and, Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. What more do you need, really?
Cat fight, cake fight. Indeed. Well, I don't know if you've seen Megapython vs. Gatoroid or one of the many trillion films that sound like that name, but do let us know if you have. Equally, getting hold of films like this costs us a couple of shekels to throw into the mighty maw of Amazon, yet more tech billionaires. If you could help us out at kofi.com/WWF pod, that helps us rent a few more pieces of crap. But that's all from me for now. Thanks for listening. Jay, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening, everyone, and goodbye.